Welcome to those that are here in person and to those that are watching the replay. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is April Young. I'm a storytelling coach with Stage Savvy Speakers. And tonight we are going to learn how to start sharing the stories that matter, even if you think nobody wants to hear them. So drop it in the chat if you're here live, or if you are watching the replay, that email that you got your link in, and tell me why you're here. I would love to know what drew you to this webinar tonight, what it is about your story that you feel called to share, but also why you think nobody wants to hear it. Why do you think your story is not interesting enough to take to the masses? Because I have a little secret for you. It absolutely is. People want to know about you. They love learning about other people. So you might not think they want to know about it, but they do. So drop it in the chat, shoot me an email, and let me know. Let me know the answers to those questions. I'll give you just a minute to drop it in the chat if you're live, and then we will jump right in and get started. I do see comment coming in. Awesome. Julianne says, I want to become a better speaker and have a speech to deliver for my testimony at church and some other speaking engagements. I love that. That is absolutely the reason to be here. And we're going to help you with that tonight. So it looks like we have some more friends joining us. Just a minute to welcome anyone joining us. Thank you for being here. We've just started. You haven't missed any of the fun yet. Again, if you are joining us live, we are dropping in the comments what drew us to this webinar tonight, and what is it about your story that you think is not interesting, so that we can learn why it is interesting and why we should start sharing. Again, if you're on the replay, send me an email, send me a message on Facebook, and let me know the answer to that question when you watch the video. So I'm really excited you guys are here. Thank you for joining me. I am very excited to share this new webinar. I just designed this for this month. I try to do a little bit of a different webinar each month as I learn more and more about what you all need to start embracing and sharing those amazing stories that you have. So we will jump right in. If you missed it, we have one participant who has commented on why they're here tonight, which I appreciate. And hopefully you all can relate to their comment. Julianne says she wants to become a better speaker and be able to deliver her testimony at church and be able to get some other speaking engagements and really embrace those stories that she knows she has to share. So let's get to it. All right. Here we go. First, we're going to start by really exploring the heart of your story. Why our stories matter, simple steps to get started with sharing those, and then amplifying our story with the purpose. When we understand why our story is powerful, it becomes much, much easier to start sharing that. So we'll start with these 3 steps, and we always have to start at the beginning. So when we talk about sharing our stories and why we should share our stories, you will learn quickly. I'm very passionate about empowering women, especially, to speak up and to speak out about the things they've experienced and all of these other things, so that we can share our collective knowledge and wisdom with the world. Women have a huge breadth of wisdom and experience and knowledge. And when we share those things that we've been through, we pave the way for other people to get through the things that they might be going through, or we inspire those that might be on the path of struggle at the moment, or overcoming some of those hard things that life tends to throw at us sometimes. So when we are willing and brave enough to share, then we're able to help them navigate their struggles as well. So first of all, the reason your story matters is simply that there is great wisdom and love usually contained in our stories. But more than that, we can inspire. There's inspiration for others in our stories. They're relatable. People relate to people who have gone through similar things that they've gone through. Drop a 1 in the chat, because I want to know if you've ever heard someone talk
And you've thought, well, geez, if she can do that, I can do that. Or if she can get through this hardship, I can get through my hardship. And these are the things that we relate to. So, yep, I see someone's coming in. Yes, absolutely. We have those thoughts because we relate to those stories. But if they didn't share those stories, we would feel isolated. We would feel disconnected. We wouldn't think that anyone understood us. So this is why it is so important for us to be sharing our stories. Yep, keep those ones coming. I see them. I have two screens, so I have to look over there for your guys' comments. All right, simple steps to start sharing. That is what I love sharing with women. So we're going to jump into that a little bit. It's way easier than you think to get your story out in a way that you can start to share it. We overthink it. It's what we do. And then we'll amplify that with purpose. All right, let's move to the next set of things to talk about. Your story, it has great power. I mentioned this a moment ago. Your story has the power to inspire others, to become their survival guide, if you will. You'll find me often quoting Brene Brown. There's one of her quotes right here on your screen right now. But she said so wisely that your story could be someone else's survival guide. And I live by that. That is really my mantra when it comes to the stories that I personally share, but also the stories that I help my clients come out with and the stories that the women I come in contact with. I remind them that, hey, you are awesome. You are 1,000, batting 1,000 in life, everything you've been through, and you're still here. And you can share that with others. That is so powerful and inspirational. Our stories really connect us on a human level. When we bring who we are to the table, we relate to people. And it doesn't matter how good AI gets, how good computer technology gets, it will never, ever, ever replace the human element, that which makes us who and what we are. No computer can replace that. And that's why it's so important for us to continue connecting through our stories. Our personal experiences really do create a universal impact. If you think about it, there's only so many kinds of experiences a person can go through. Loss, heartbreak, divorce, good things too. Adding to your family, getting married, buying a house, maybe getting your dream job and moving across the world, or whatever the case may be. But there's only so many types of things that we go through. These are our universals, right? These universal things. Now, that said, no two people will experience those similar types of things the same way. They won't. One divorce is not the same as the next divorce. One marriage is not the same as the next marriage. Moving, selling a house, having a child, heaven forbid losing a child or a family member. All of us experience those universal things differently. And that's where the magic comes in. And then there's the small moments that can lead to the big changes. The ahas and the hmms and those little light bulb moments where you think, oh, I just grew right there. I learned something. These are the small moments that really add the powerful stuff, because the magic tends to happen in those mundane things and times where you think, this doesn't really matter. And it turns out it was the keystone to whatever was coming next. All right, go ahead and drop for me a 2 in the comments, because I want to make sure you're all still here and listening. Drop a 2 in the comments if you can think off of the top of your head one of those universal themes that you've experienced that you could share to help somebody else navigate. Yep, drop those 2s. I see them coming. Awesome. We all have, right? All right. This is where the good stuff happens. I love it. So here we are. We are going to jump right in to the simple steps to help you get started sharing your stories. I hope that you all have a notebook and a pen handy. If you don't, I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to go find one. So I'm going to look at my watch. It's 30 seconds to go find a pen and a notepad. And I'm going to grab a sip of water. And I'm going to wear half of that water because the cup that I just grabbed has a really big opening. So I hope you're getting a good laugh out of that. If you can't be silly and be yourself on camera in front of a live audience, that's like a new life level unlocked right there. So there's my story for the night, giving a live class and wore half my cup of water. Totally fine. All right. It has been 40 seconds, so we're going to keep going. All right, with your notebook, what I want you to do is start by identifying one or two defining moments in your life. Now, what do I mean by defining moment? I want you to dig deep into your memory bank and into those things that you've maybe buried deep down, those things that you don't show the world, you don't share with the world because you think you'll be judged, any of these things. And I want you to write it down. Pick two and write them down. This could be that one time you got arrested as a teenager. This could be maybe you left a marriage. Maybe you were the one that, caused that marriage to fall apart. Maybe you've suffered a loss of a very close family member. Any of these kind of defining moments in your life where you were not the same person after that moment that you were prior to that moment. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and I want you to write these things down. On your marks, get set, go. We have about a minute and a half to go. Got a minute left. Thirty seconds to go. All right. Time is up. Drop a 3 in the chat for me if you are still with me and if you were able to come up with at least 1 or 2 defining moments in your life. Excellent. I love it. All right. I got 1 3 so far. There's another one. Yes. All right. Fantastic. Now we're going to move on to the next step, which is finding the lesson within the defining moments. A lot of times we go through hard things. Sometimes we go through good things. We still learn from all of those experiences. When we go through the good, the bad, the hard, the ugly, the fun, all of these things, we pick up little nuggets of wisdom along the way. So the next step of figuring out what stories to share and why they're important and why you should share them is to find the lesson within them. And so now I want you to revisit those defining moments. I'm going to give you just about 2 minutes again. And I want you to write down whatever little nuggets of wisdom pop into mind from those defining moments. It could be something simple, like really simple. Maybe you touched a stove and burned your hand really bad and you learned not to do that anymore, right? That's a really good example of a lesson learned. My personal stories, I went through a period of time with my husband where he struggled with addiction and he was arrested for that. And in the middle of it, it was very difficult. There were many times I didn't know if he was going to come home or if, I was going to get a phone call that he was dead or in jail. I did get the call that he was in jail finally. But when I look back on that experience now, I realized just how much I learned about strength, resilience, independence, and so many different things, empathy through that experience. So these are the nuggets that I'm talking about. What have you gone through? Whether it was good or bad, hard, difficult, or easy and fun, what are those nuggets that you picked up along the way? So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Let me go back to my timer here. I'm going to give you 2 minutes on the clock. Actually, I'm going to give you 3 because it might take you a minute to think about these. I'm going to give you 3 minutes, and I want you to write down 2 to 3 or 4 little nuggets of wisdom that you've picked up from those defining moments that you've identified. Are you ready? Begin. You have 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. One minute to go. You have 1 minute to go. Keep writing the lessons that you picked up, those wisdom nuggets that you have collected as you've navigated some of those defining moments in your life. I have about 15 seconds left. All right, your time is up. Time is up. Go ahead and give me a 1 in the chat if you were able to pick up some nuggets that you have learned along the way as you've navigated these defining moments. And again, if you're watching the replay, please send me an email. You can send me a message on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn and let me know what you're coming up with here. Yes, I'm seeing some ones. Great job. So glad you guys are still with me. I love this. This is so much fun. All right, keep dropping those ones over there, and we are going to move on to step 3. This is step 3 in the beginning phase of sharing your story and learning how to share stories that matter, that will impact people, and that they will find interesting. So let's move on to that. Step number 3. We are now going to connect our lessons to universal themes. We've already kind of talked about those. So universal themes are resilience, overcoming obstacles, growth, learning through discomfort, trials and triumphs, as I like to say, overcoming our fears, so many different things. But we can usually tie them into any of these broad universal themes. So for the next part of this exercise, again, you're going to get a couple of minutes on the clock. I want you to write down 2 or 3 ways that the nuggets of wisdom that you've identified connect to these universal themes that you can then take and share with other people. Again, we're thinking about strength, discovering one's own strength, mental toughness, resilience, being able to carry on even when things are hard and heavy, and not allowing life to break our human spirit. So these are the kinds of things we want to tie our wisdom nuggets to. So I'm going to give you, once again, 2 minutes on the clock. There's my 2-minute timer. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I want you to write down 2 or 3 different ways that your nuggets of wisdom and your defining moments can be tied to these universal themes. And that's how we're going to build a story. We are identifying the building blocks of our stories here. So on your marks, get set. You have 2 minutes and begin. All right, you have 1 minute left. 1 minute left. Twenty seconds to go. All right, that is time. All right, go ahead and put a 2 in the chat for me. If, again, you were able to connect your nuggets, your defining moments to some of these universal themes that we can talk about, because we are all qualified to talk about resilience, moving on in the face of adversity, and all of these things that we've picked up along the way. We are all qualified. So go ahead and drop that 2 over there for me if you were able to tie some of those things together. Awesome. Yes, keep the 2s coming. I see 1 so far. And if you need more time, I would highly encourage you to revisit this exercise after the webinar, and then reach out to me with an email or book a free call, and let's chat about what's coming up for you if you're feeling blocked in any way when you're trying to write these things. We tend to overthink, right? Especially we women, we tend to try and overanalyze and overthink so many things. And this is the opposite of that. So go ahead and, again, drop a 2 in the chat if you were able to connect. And even if you weren't, just so I know you're still here and with me. I am going to go on for the sake of time. But before I do, I want to go over the other side of this slide with you for a minute. We just need to keep in mind right now, again, we're not getting super nitpicky and nitty gritty. We just remember that the building blocks of your story are those defining moments, decisions that you've made in your life events, and those lessons learned. And then we tie all of that to our universal themes, and that's how we create a story. I make it sound simple, I know, because it is really simple. All right, here we go. Now, if you are feeling brave, I would love for you to put in the chat a little bit of what came up for you. Maybe one of your defining moments, one of your wisdom nuggets, and one universal theme that came to mind as you were going through that exercise. If you're feeling brave, drop it in the chat. And if you're watching the replay, again, send me a message, send me an email. Let me know what's coming up for you. I'd love to know what are these initial building blocks of the story that's coming to life for you. So I'll give you guys a minute to put something in the chat over there while I go over this slide a little bit more. So again, it's a review of the last slide. You start by thinking about a moment that changed how you see yourself or how you view the world, your perspective in different things, how things shaped you, something that changed your life for the better, for the worse, or maybe it didn't really cause a big change. You were just different when you came out of that experience. Resilience. Yes, resilience is a big one, especially for us ladies. It seems like a lot of us have been through things that really challenge us, and we don't always get to share that. So resilience is a big one. Thank you so much for sharing that. When we think about the lessons that come through, this is where we're able to say, okay, this is how I can impact other people with my stories. We have to get a little raw and a little vulnerable. We have to be brave. We have to be brave enough to share the hard things that we've gone through, whether it was by choice, we made a bad decision or a decision that took us a certain way, or life happened and we had to go through it, right? Voluntary and involuntary, either way we learn, and that's what we can share. So yes, if anybody else wants to drop their one-word takeaway or their little nuggets in the chat, please do. I'm happy to read those as they come over. Yes, having the courage to try new things. Absolutely. That is one of the most inspiring stories you can tell, is when you have the courage to do new things, because other people will feed on that courage. It only takes one of us to be brave before more and more of us start to be brave. It's a wonderful positive feedback loop that starts with one person. Imagine, for me, if you will, a row of dominoes, and they're all standing there waiting to fall, all of them. It only takes one to start the reaction. It's the same thing when we're brave and we're courageous and vulnerable enough to share these stories. It's just like a line of dominoes. It just takes one to get us started. All right. Yes, keep those things coming. I love seeing your guys' comments. Thank you for being interactive. I appreciate that. Again, if you're on the replay, shoot me a message. It doesn't mean you can't interact just because you're not here live. All right, moving forward. This one I love. I love talking about the fears because it's fun to talk about what we've been through and the stories that we could tell. And then the other side of our brain kicks in and goes, wait a second. Sure you can do that? Do you really know what you're talking about? You don't belong on that stage. You don't have a story worth sharing. And I'm here to tell that part of your brain to take a hike, because you absolutely have a story worth sharing. You absolutely belong in that room, on that stage, whether it's in front of 5 people or 500 people. You belong there. You belong there, because you do have something valuable to share, and that is your lived experience. So the top things I hear all the time, I would say at this point on a consistent daily basis from women, almost exclusively from the women that I come in contact with, is my story isn't good enough. I don't know what to say. What if I forget what to say? Will people care? Nobody finds my story interesting. I don't even find my story interesting. These are the types of things that I hear. And I'm here to tell you that that is just the part of your mind that is designed to keep you safe, trying to hold you back from growing. We call it the ego. You may have heard of it. The ego is there instinctually to keep you safe, right? But we aren't running from other tribes or hiding from predators anymore. We are not at that basic level of human existence now. We are able to push our limits and push our boundaries, and we don't need the ego to hold us back from that. We don't need it to keep us safe from the stage. The stage is a safe place, and it's where you can go to be brave and vulnerably share these things that you've been through. So if you are someone who's ever said, either in your mind or out loud, my story's not good enough, I don't know what to say, would my story mean anything? Who could I reach? I get terrified when I think about public speaking. Please put an emoji in the chat. Any emoji you want. It could be the fire emoji or the star eyes or the surprise face. Just drop me an emoji if you've had any of those thoughts or ever said those things out loud, because we all do it. We all do it. I still do that sometimes. I question myself when I'm in a room full of amazing, powerful, intelligent women, and I go, they're all more successful than me. That's just a story that my ego is telling me because it wants me to stay small and safe. But I want to be big and I want to grow and I want to be uncomfortable enough to grow into those spaces. So that's why I have learned to just tell the ego to go sit in the back seat. We're doing this anyway. And there's so much power in doing that. Yes, I love it. Emojis. Yep. Heart cat eyes. I love it. Sunglasses. Yep. I don't know. Absolutely. You guys are the best. I love it. Remember, your story does not have to be perfect. You don't have to think that you're interesting. Other people will do that for you. Your story doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. And it doesn't matter if you forget what to say on the stage. Let me tell you a little secret. When you write a speech, you write it down and you have your notes and they're in your hand and you're ready to give it on the stage and you don't say half of what you wrote down. How many people, I want you to answer in the chat for me, how many people do you think are going to know that you didn't say half of what was on your paper? Give me your answer in the chat. And I'll come back to this question in just a second. How many people do you think will actually know that you didn't say half of what you wrote down? Nobody wants to answer? That's okay. I'll answer it for you. Nobody except you. You're the only person that will know that you forgot to say something. They don't know what you wrote down. The audience doesn't know what's on your note cards. They could be blank. The audience doesn't know that. They're going to know that you said something that either resonated with them or didn't, because you're not always going to reach everyone, right? And we have to be okay with that. But nobody else is going to know that you forgot to say half of what you wrote down. They won't know that. So to them, you gave the quote unquote perfect performance because they didn't know that you didn't say half of what you had there. And when we get rid of that idea of perfection, this becomes a whole lot easier. All right, the question, the people you rehearsed in front of, yeah, probably not. They probably won't know that either because they're not going to memorize what you said. And they're going to know because if you're rehearsing in front of them, they're probably trusted people and they're going to say nothing probably. But if they do, they'd be like, hey, did you mean to leave this part out? Or, I like what you did there. You left this part out, but this part was really moving. And if they do say, hey, don't forget about this part, then it's in your mind. But guess what? If you forget it in the end, it still isn't the end of the world. Now, to revisit a question in the chat, we do have some time. So I want to come back to this question from Julianne. What if people do judge you and talk about you afterwards? If they do that, you're in the wrong space. You're speaking in the wrong space if the people there are judging you and talking negatively about you afterwards. And that is the hard truth. So if you are feeling like you're being judged, that's not the space for you to speak in. Now, hopefully this isn't the church environment you were talking about, but if it is, again, you can talk to those people and say, hey, I did my best and I don't appreciate you talking about me, right? You can do that. You have the power to do that and stand up for yourself. But in general, if you are speaking or you have spoken and then the people are talking negatively about you in that space, that is not the space for you to be in. You should find a new space where the people are supportive. I would love to talk more with you about this. So at the end, we're going to talk about how to connect and let's book a free call together. I'd love to explore that question a little more in depth with you. All right, let's keep going for the sake of time. I mean, I've been rambling here for a solid 40 minutes already, and I don't want to run out of time with you guys. So now we are to the part where we are talking about amplifying this story. And what I mean by that is how do we put this story together in a way that's really going to bring an impact? We share it with purpose and with confidence, even if we're shaking in our boots. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be a little bit scared. It's okay to think, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Those thoughts are all perfectly okay to have. And you just bring them with you. It's not okay to let them stop you. It's okay to acknowledge them and say, you know what? I'm a little nervous. I'm a little scared, but I'm also really excited. And I get to share this story with this audience. And let's do it. So we pack up those nerves and those fears and we just take them with us. We don't let them hold us back. We carry on with them, not in spite of them, but with them. So I want you to start by choosing where and how you might share your stories. This could be small networking groups, church groups, friend groups. This could be a dinner outing or, a private party at your home. You can design the environment that you share your stories in. That is absolutely okay. So start small, share with a trusted friend or friends or partner, family member, people close to you that you can trust to give you honest and constructive feedback. Again, if you are speaking to people that are judging you and giving you nothing but negativity, you're in the wrong space and you're talking to the wrong people. You have the power to fix that. Use emotion. When you are putting this story out there and you do start to share, use emotion. Don't be afraid to let emotion come in. Again, emotion is a huge part of being human, right? We are one of the few species that can really share this broad range of emotion. Now, there are animals that experience and express emotion as well, but humans, I think we feel that on a much deeper level. It's okay to bring that in. If you are telling a story that's hard to get through and tears come, that's okay. It's okay. That people will relate to that. It brings the audience into you because if that's powerful for you, that energy is felt in the crowd. Use those universal truths and themes to really bring people together. They relate to those things. If everybody knows somebody that's been through something hard, that's made them more resilient or really forced them to mature or make a decision, and it's going to be relatable. And then be intentional. Remember, the goal of speaking, the goal of storytelling in pretty much any form, any format, any venue is connection. It's not about being perfect. It's not about being, the next Tony Robbins or, the next Mel Robbins or the next whoever, big fancy famous speaker you might think of here. It's just about being the best version of you. You are the only person that can tell your story in your voice. Think about that. There are 8.5 billion people on this planet. Now that's a very big number. Of all of those people, you are the only one who can tell your story. That's amazing. That makes it valuable right there. You're the only one that can tell your story in your voice because you are the only one that has your lived experience. And that's what makes this so powerful. Remember, it's not about perfectly telling the story, and it's not about telling the perfect story. It's simply about connecting with the audience. All right. One more exercise, which we kind of already did. So I guess this is a duplicate slide. So let's revisit then. Coming back to our defining moment, our lesson that it taught us, and why it matters to others. I want to share with you one of my own stories here. So the defining moment we will explore is I'm a musician. I have been for almost 31 years. I have been on every stage imaginable, from dive bars to county fairs to football stadiums, baseball stadiums, auditoriums, you name it, I have probably performed on that stage. Now, with that comes a lot of nervous energy. Sometimes it has to be reframed, and a lot of solo opportunities have come my way. So when I was 28 or so this has been about 14 years ago, I had been a musician for about 17 years at this point. I was in college again, and I went to a master class. Now, a master class is where a professional musician, in this case, an instructor and performer at the Juilliard School of Music, very, very, very prestigious institution. If you don't know anything about Juilliard, it is among the top artistic institutes in the world. Very, very skilled, renowned clarinet player. That's what I play. came to this college where there was a conference going on. And at the encouragement of my instructor, I signed up to be one of the 5 performers at the master class. Now, at this point, I had been playing for a long time, but I still got very, very nervous about being on stage. So I was in my head and I was very nervous thinking about all those things that could go wrong, which is what we do, right? I get up on the stage and I start playing and I get about halfway through the page and my instrument starts to not work properly. I knew how to fix it, so I tried that. It didn't work. I could not get it to respond and I had to stop. I was destroyed. I wanted to crawl under the stage and never be seen again. I was embarrassed. My anxiety was through the roof. My nerves were totally shot, right? If you can relate to this, drop me something over here in the chat, a comment, a 1, a 2, an emoji, anything, because if you can imagine yourself feeling your very most vulnerable, your very most embarrassed in front of an audience, that was me. That was me in that moment. And this professional, you know, he had a very stoic demeanor. So I was like, oh man, I'm going to get chewed for this, right? And he was just like, you know what? It happens. Let's talk about what happened before that. Let's talk about what I was able to accomplish before that. And so I got through the master class and we talked a little bit about that. And it wasn't until recently, honestly, in the last year or so, where I now look back on that experience as the moment where I learned that it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if you forget what to say. It doesn't matter if your instrument malfunctions and you can't continue on. None of that matters. What matters is what you take away from that. I was still able to get guidance and instruction and encouragement on what I did before that happened. And now I also learned from that how to manage and handle anxiety, nerves, that stage, you know, performance anxiety type of energy that can come when we have to be on the stage. And so now that is one of my most favorite experiences to talk about. That was the pinnacle. That moment was the peak of my performance anxiety. And I have done nothing but get better from then because I learned from that experience how to overcome that. I didn't die, right? That's the worst thing that could happen to you on a stage is you could just fall off the stage and be mortally wounded. That really is the worst thing. Everything else pales in comparison. I didn't die. In fact, I had so many people afterwards come up to me and say, you know what, we've been there. It happens, because this was a room full of instrumentalists. We get it. You did great. You got up there and we didn't. Now that really hit home. I was brave enough to get up there. They sat in the audience. That alone is huge. When you're brave enough to get off of your butt, out of your chair, and get on that stage and share those pieces of you that are so vulnerable, you have already won the race. Doesn't matter what happens on the stage. You got up there when others sat down. Okay, so this is why it matters, right? I love telling that story now because it really was this absolute just moment of complete terror and being destroyed and so hard on myself. And it turned into one of the greatest learning moments of my musical career, which has now influenced my coaching career. So I hope you all have a story like that. Thank you for the emojis. Appreciate that. I hope you all have a story like that that you can relate to. And now you can look back on those experiences in retrospect and say, oh, I did learn a lot from that experience. It's very powerful. All right, we are almost done. So we're going to wrap up here. I hope you guys have enjoyed the process of starting to dive in to your stories and how really to start sharing stories that matter. Again, even if you think nobody else wants to hear them, because they do want to hear your stories. We want to know about other people, especially after the last 5 years, where 2.5 of those 5 years, we couldn't connect with people. We were purposefully kept apart. And now we're rebounding and we want to connect more than ever. I think we want to be connected, and we need to connect human to human, not through technology necessarily, texting and social media, but phone calls and face-to-face meetings and speaking on the stage in the same room. So if you are ready to take your story further, I would love to help you with that. I have a free call that you can book. It's 30 minutes. We can sit together. I can learn about you, you can learn about me, and we can talk about the ways that you can start sharing your story. If working together feels right, we can talk about those options as well. But I want to get to know you guys and help you take those stories where you want them to go. Julianne mentioned that she would like to become a better speaker and be able to feel more confident sharing her testimony in her church. I can help you with that, and I would love to do so. I know that Sydney has reached out to me as well and said, hey, I would like to start figuring out how to share my story. So I offer to you two things, and we'll talk about the second one on the next slide. But if you scan this QR code, I will also post the link in the chat for you guys. Let me grab that for you really quick. You can schedule that call. Let me copy this and put it over here for you. Here is the link to schedule that free call with me, or you can scan the QR code here. I would love to get to know you and see if I can help you build that story. Again, if you're on the replay, the link to book that free call will be included in the email that you received the video link in. All right, you can see I have plenty of dates available in the month of April. I will say I am out of town on the 8th, so if you book a call that day, it's probably going to be in the afternoon, but I would love to meet with you in the next few weeks. And I also have a bonus for you guys. I'm so excited. I threw this in kind of last minute, and I'm really excited to share it. So let me get the slide moved over. I recently created a course to help you get started sharing your story. And for you guys, just for being in this webinar, whether you're live or in the replay, I have a huge, huge discount for you. So my course, Start Your Story in 7 Days, is the next step to this webinar. It's what we've done, but deeper. So it would take you through 7 days, just 7 days, 15-ish minutes a day for 7 days, really digging in and starting to build that story. There's bonus material in there, and you get a free 60-minute call with me, which is $189 value for free when you buy this course. And I'm giving you $100 off the course. So this course, you use this QR code. I'll also post that link in the chat for you. It's $97 just for you guys for joining this webinar. And you get all of that. You get the bonus material, you get the call with me, you get all of those things for that price. So the link is in the chat for you right there. You can also scan the QR code. And those of you that are here live, you're going to get this replay as well. So you'll still have all of the access to this. You'll have the links in your email. But this course was so much fun to make for you guys because I love sharing this info. And I know that this course will help you really start to figure out how to share the stories that matter and identify the people that they'll matter to. Again, if you're being judged harshly for what you say, you're in the wrong space because your stories matter. They always have and they always will. And it's time to start sharing them. So I have on my watch, we have about 5 minutes left. If any of you have any questions, please put them in the chat or come on the audio. I'd be happy to spend the last few minutes answering questions for you and giving you a moment to scan the code and all of that. So let me know if you have questions. Julianne, thank you so much. I see you have to run. I will send you the email with the replay. Hopefully we can connect. And I'll give you guys just a couple more minutes in case anyone has questions, and then we'll call it a night. So thank you again. Again, please take advantage of the bonus offer. I know you'll find great value in this course, and we get to spend 60 minutes together on a free coaching call and really get that story put together for you. So again, if there's no questions, I will go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining me tonight live. Those of you that are on the replay, I can't wait to get your feedback. I can't wait to see you on my calendar. I can't wait to see you in the Start Your Story in 7 Days course. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your night or day, depending on when you're watching this, and I will chat with you all later. Thank you so much for joining me.